Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. This is Mary Angeli Escobacuman, and I will be discussing with you information processing theory. Ayan. So just a recap on what we have talked last meeting, that's Gestalt psychology. Gestalt means form, okay, yung mga sinabi natin, it's all about whole, it's about the essence. Ayan. So kapag narinig nyo yung mga ganong salita, um, form, essence, and whole, madalas it refers to Gestalt psychology. So ang sinasabi lang ng Gestalt psychology, the some of its parts is different from the whole. So just a recap din kung paano natin siya i-discuss is the parts that makes a whole daw ay may iba't ibang function. Okay? So ano ba yung, sino-sino ba yung mga proponent ng Gestalt psychology? So, the proponents are, of course, Max Wertheimer, si Wolfgang Kohler, and Kurt Kofka. Ayan. So, tatlo kapag Gestalt. Okay? Ang pinaka-proponent is si Max Wertheimer. Ayan. So, what are the principles that talks about Gestalt psychology? So, law of proximity, pag narinig natin ang salitang proximity, it talks about distance. How close the elements. Okay? Law of similarity naman, pag sinabi nating similarity, pagkakapare-pareho. Well, how about closure? Closure is mas malapit sa isa't isa. Okay? Mas lalagay tayo ng yung closeness ang sinasabi dito parang we tend to close the gap in between for example concepts or terminology and uh, gaya nga ng sabi ko parang gaya ng sa isang relasyon mas magandang may closure, no? You always look for the closure to end the concept or the chapter before we continue with a different topic. So, laging ine-end yung isang idea or isang konsepto, and then we move on to a different topic. Another law of good continuation. Pag law of good continuation naman, yung iba, di ba, you want closure, but for law of good continuation, you want more. Okay, so sa ganun lang din sa good continuation, for example, sa mga subjects na may mga prerequisites, hindi natatapos sa part 1. So may part 2 and may part 3. So that's good continuation kasi as we go through different topics and different lessons, kahit matapos yung isang chapter, meron pa siyang need na i-take or meron pa siyang kasunod na idea na we really need to consider. Okay, law of good pregnancy naman, ito po yung mas simple, mas naiintindihan natin. Okay? So we perceive experiences kapag mas nakikita natin yung kasimplehan nito. Okay? And lastly, for the law of figure or ground, okay, dun yung nakikita natin ano, that before you look at the background, nakikita mo yung centerpiece. Kaya nga siya figure or ground. Kung ano yung nandoon sa gitna. Okay? So, yung other elements outside that figure or ground is hindi masyadong binibigyang highlight. Okay? So, moving on to our topic today, the information processing theory. Okay, this is about how we learn things. Okay, so continuation siya kung sa Gestalt, di ba, yung pagkakaiba-iba ng bawat parte dito naman po sa information processing theory, this is how we learn and how we absorb and how we retain information. Okay, so allow me to share my PowerPoint presentation. I hope you are now seeing my screen. Okay. Ayan. So, information processing theory. Okay, so just to sum it up, okay, ang idea ng information processing theory, if we're going to put it in a diagram, ganito siya. Okay, so all information comes from the environment, and then of course, paano siya maa-absorb, paano siya papasok sa isang tao. Of course, we use our senses. Kasi ang senses natin, this is the gateway for us to, of course, gather information. So, what are the senses? Of course, sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of taste, sense of balance, etc. Ayan. So, when we allow this information to go to our senses, okay, then we process them. Okay. Once we process them, then it will go to our short-term memory. Sa processing ng pagpunta sa senses, meron tayong tinatawag na attention. Okay? So, just like today, okay, so anong nararanasan mo ngayon? So, for example, ikaw ay nasa kwarto, o ikaw ay nasa labas ng bahay, o ako man dito sa office, naririnig ko na maraming nagsasalita outside. Okay? Marami akong naririnig na labas-pasok sa pintuan, but I do not give so much attention to that. Kahit naririnig ko, kahit nakikita ko na maraming dumadaan-daang tao, I do not give so much attention to that. So, maaaring nandyan lang siya sa short-term memory ko, lahat ng nangyayari ngayon sa akin. Pero, pag uwi ko mamaya sa bahay, hindi ko na maaalala kung ilan ba yung pumasok dito sa faculty, ilan ba yung batang nagtanong sa akin, ilan ba yung naglabas-pasok sa pintuan. Okay? Kasi hindi ko naman siya binigyang atensyon. Okay? So lahat yun, pupunta lang siya sa short-term memory. Pero, lahat ng bagay na in-entertain mo, okay? So for example, I give an attention, so much attention to a student. Kinausap ko siya. And then yung pakikipag-usap ko sa kanya, hindi naging maganda. Okay? So, maaalala ko siya. Maaalala ko siya kasi yung engagement namin kasi ay nagtagal. Okay? And of course, yung information na na-share namin sa isa't isa is seryoso. Okay? So, maaalala ko siya sa aking pag-uwi. Okay? At maaaring maalala ko ito kapag nag-recall ako, sabi ko, oo, nakausap ko yung bata na yan. So, long-term memory. Sa long-term memory, dito pumapasok lahat ng information na pwede mong ma-recall. So, kahit na ang dami-dami ng time na nakalipas, pwede mo siyang, o madali mo siyang maalala. Okay? So, ganun yung pagkakaiba niya sa short-term memory. And then, kapag naman higher level pa ng information, then that's executive control. Executive control naman is, this includes now on how you react to different situations or experiences. So for example, you know exactly how to be hurt. So alam mo yung values mo and alam mo yung boundary mo kung ano lang yung pain tolerance mo. So for the situations na alam mo iti-trigger yung hurtful moment na yan sa sarili mo, you can now respond to it correctly. Kasi you can now control your responses and your emotions. Every time may trigger ka on how things will hurt you, hindi ka na ganun ka-reactive because you are now familiar on how to control these types of situations. Okay? Another, okay, to continue, information processing theory attempts to categorize the information that is recognized, utilized, and stored in the memory. So again, we first recognize information. Kapag na-recognize mo itong concept na to, for example, then gagamitin mo. That's utilization. And once you have already utilized this, and it will be stored in your memory. Okay, this theory recognizes the ability for a person to control what information is processed and the changes and development of these abilities. So just like what I have discussed kanina dun sa diagram natin. So if you are now able to recognize a specific emotions, a specific concept, then you are in control of the responses and the reactions that is needed for that stimulus. So, what are types of knowledge according to information processing theory? So, we have this general versus specific. So, syempre, sa types of knowledge, meron tayong tinatawag na general. Pag sinabi natin general, malawak. Okay? Malawak na konsepto. Okay? Kapag specific naman, syempre, specific nga, it refers to um, a subject or an idea na exact. Okay? So, example ng general versus specific. Example ng general, animals. Specific, dog. Ganun. So, another pa, sa concept naman ng learning, we talk about social science kapag general. Specific naman, ano ba yung social science na subject natin ngayon? O sabihin natin, Rizal. Inyo. So that is part of the social sciences. Ganun. And then declarative naman, it is about facts. So declarative is factual knowledge. Pag sinabi nating fact, these are based on, of course, reliable sources. These are based from sources that are actually experienced and that are basis of knowledge. Procedural naman from the word procedure. So it talks about the step-by-step process on how to do things. Okay? Paano ginawa? Paano bubuuin? Okay? So it is about how to do things. Episodic, okay? Like episode for the root word, how to do things. Okay? Episodic is life events. So episode, life events. So for example, your elementary experiences, your elementary grade level, for example, talks about concepts of science, arithmetic, yan, di ba? Mas mababa pa yung level na yan. And then when you go to high school, junior or senior high school, whatever you learn from your elementary, ile-level up. And then after nun, you go to tertiary level, sa college level, and then whatever you learn from your elementary and your high school, ile-level up lang yung mga concepts and ideas. Okay? And will be applied to your real life situation. So, kung titingnan natin, again, sa episodic, your subjects for your elementary high school are all preparation for what you will become in the future. For example, sa inyo, mga education students, so kayo po ay maaaring nag-gas or STEM or ano ba yung strand na tinake nyo or TechVoc, for example, so that you will be able to qualify for College of Education or sa kursong College of Education. And then all this information that you have gathered or that you have learned from your previous life events will be used to whatever profession you want to become. Okay? And lastly, conditional. Conditional naman is about when and why knowledge. So condition, okay? So there are things that you need to recall, okay? Depende sa pangangailangan. So for example, kailan mo kailangang alalahanin ng specific na konsepto and bakit. So that's conditional. Hindi lahat ng natututunan natin is na-apply natin sa ating pang-araw-araw na buhay. Stages of the information processing theories are the following. Okay, so first is encoding. Okay, so ano bang nangyayari kapag nag-e-encode tayo? So just to recall kanina dun sa diagram, syempre lahat ng information pumapasok sa ating gateway. What are the gateways in order for you to encode the senses? Okay? So first, kailangang ma-sense mo, 'di ba? Hindi ka naman pwedeng mag-react kung hindi mo naman talaga ito personally na experience. Okay? How do you experience things through senses? Diba? Nakita mo, narinig mo, naranasan mo. Okay? So, and then kapag lahat yan pumasok sa senses, nagbigay ka ng attention, then there will be perception. Okay? And then, sabi ko nga kanina, hindi naman lahat ng naririnig mo, nakikita mo, binibigyan mo ng attention. Di ba? So, all of those are just part of encoding. So, lahat lang yan pumapasok. Pero once you give attention to it, that is the time na magkakaroon na ng storage. Okay, so for example, ngayon, nakikinig ka sa lecture, okay, iniintindi mo, inuunawa mo, binibigyan mo ng oras and attention and that you are all ears ngayon sa pinapakinggan. Okay? Kailangan kong aralin to. That's encoding. And kapag pumasok na siya sa iyong senses, so sa sense of hearing, yan, pumapasok na siya sa listening part dahil ikaw ay kahit papano nagtatry na unawain, understanding, and magkaroon ng learning doon sa naririnig mo. And it will now be stored sa iyong memory bank. So, storage. So, ano bang ginagawa pag nag-store tayo? Nag-iimbak, nag-iipon. Okay, so storage. So, storage is either brief or extended period of time. So, sabi ko nga sa inyo kanina, merong short-term and may long-term storage. So, short-term is yung mga may duration lang na nakita mo and experience mo for a short period of time. Maaaring maalala mo, kapag nagbigay ka ng attention, maaaring hindi. Okay. Retrieval naman, kapag pwede mo siyang balikan. O from storage stage, since naiimbak mo yung information na yan, it is somewhere out there. Kapag kunwari may nagtanong, you will be able to reactivate that information and that is retrieval. Okay? Kaya mo siyang alalahanin. Kaya mo siyang balikan. Kasi nga, maganda yung pagkaka-store. Ayan. So, sensory register has two considerations. So, meron tayong tinatawag na capacity. Pag sinabi natin capacity, siyempre yung kapasidad mo na i-store yung isang bagay. Okay? So, how can you hold or how much can you hold a specific information? So, kaya mo ba ng hanggang 3 segundo para maalala mo siya ulit? Yan. So, capacity. Another is yung duration. Sorry, capacity is how much. Yung duration naman is how long. Yan. So, duration is tagal, bilis. Yan. So, the role of attention is that we can only perceive and remember later those things that pass through our attention gate. And that's our senses. So, attentional filter involves surprise, salience, and distinctiveness. Pre-categorical information naman is before information is perceived, uninterpreted patterns of stimuli. Okay. So, sabi dito may attentional filter. Sabi ko nga kanina, lahat ng nangyayari ngayon sa iyo, sa paligid mo, naririnig mo yan. Aware ka dyan. Okay? So, you only filter those those things that are important sa iyo. So, hindi mo lahat yan bibigyan ng pansin. Pre-categorical information naman, these are uninterpreted patterns of stimuli. Okay? So, hanggat hindi mo siya binibigyan ng attention, lahat ng naririnig mo, lahat ng nararanasan mo, those are uninterpreted patterns of stimuli. Wala siyang ganong importance. Magkakaroon lang naman ng halaga sa iyo ang isang concept, ang isang information kapag sa tingin mo, kailangan mo. Okay? Next, short-term memory. Short-term memory is also called as temporary working memory. Sometimes you call it W or TWM or working memory, WM na lang. So, STM or TWM or WM, whereby further processing is carried out to make information ready for long-term storage or for a response. So, sa working memory, it holds information for a limited amount of time. So, short-term, for example, tinawag ka ng teacher sa isang klase. Tinawag ka ng teacher sa klase. So, nagpa-recitation based doon sa diniscuss niya. So, kapag nasagot mo yung tanong, okay, that's still part of short term kasi nakikinig ka. Okay. Pero, ang tanong, kapag ba next month, tinanong ulit yung tanong na yon ng teacher, maaalala mo pa ba? So, kung ang sagot is hindi na, that's just stored in your working memory. Okay, limited lang yung time na kaya mong i-hold yung information na yon. Pero kung hanggang ngayon, kaya mong alalahanin lahat ng itatanong ng teacher sa'yo way back or 2 months ago, so lahat yon pumasok sa long-term memory. Pero kung hindi na, lahat lang yan po ay hanggang working memory or short-term lang. So where information is processed and problem solving occurs, the working memory usually only processes things for a short period of time. Okay? So for example, sa akin, of course, yung physics subject ko, hindi ko na siya maalala talaga kung paano ko siya naipasa. Basta ang alam ko, kapag sa classroom, naaalala ko yung mga discussion. Pero not to the point na talagang by heart, binigyan ko siya ng attention. So, short term lang siya. Ganun. Okay, next naman, continuation for the short-term memory. It is also called as the working memory or temporary working memory. Sabi ko kanina, learning bottleneck. Okay? And what's interesting is that yung capacity daw po na kaya ng i-hold ng short-term memory is 5 to 9. Sometimes this is called the 7 plus or minus 2. Okay, anong ibig sabihin ng 7 plus or minus 2? So I'll discuss it later for the next slide. Duration naman is 5 to 20 seconds. Sometimes it's around 18 seconds. So lahat daw ng information na mangyayari within 20 seconds or 18 seconds, ayan, masistore siya sa inyong STM or WM. So, yung 7 plus or minus 2 rule naman ng WM is like this. Chunking. Chunking is like this. You break down into manageable size. So, for example, okay, you can see here the number 7, 3, 2, 3, 5, 4, 5, 2, 5, 4. Yung tingnan nyo yung first set ng number. Di ba para kung titingnan mo, para ang hirap mo siyang alalahanin. But, compared to the one that is being chunked. Okay? So, may dashes. So, 732, 354, 5254. So, it's easier, right? So, now you know that's the importance yung mga dashes. So, yun yung importance niya for us to easily memorize and recall a series of numbers or series of information. So, chunking somehow makes it easier for us to recall. So experts have developed chunks or schema of information that allows them to better handle complexity by recognizing patterns. So instructors must chunk information to facilitate learning. Dapat daw pala nag-chunking kami. But here in our university, ang ginagawa naman is we put it in chapters. So for example, lahat ng cognitive theories, isang bagsak. Lahat ng behavioral theories, isang bagsak. Lahat ng cognitive perspective, isang bagsak. Ano? Hindi halo-halo. Just like in math, uunahing ituro yung, of course, the concept of numbers, and then kapag nakita na you're able to master the numbers na, and you will be introduced to adding, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Hindi yung trip ni teacher na, division tayo kasi alam niyo na yung number. Hindi ganun. So, it depends on the capacity of the learner. Now we move on to the long-term memory. Yan. Sa long-term memory naman, it's where the information remembered over time is kept. Yan. Sabi ko sa inyo, if it stays there for more than 20 seconds, yan. So kung kaya mo siyang i-retrieve, kahit past 20 seconds na or past 2 months, sabihin natin, or 2 weeks, or past 3 years, then it went na sa inyong long-term memory. So, example ng long-term memory. Example ng long-term memory. all the information that you can clearly recall. Example, pinaka-clear. Alalang-alala mo kung sino yung, for example, mga nakapupo, di ba? Nung grade 1 kayo, yung mga klase mong natay, di ba? Yung mga klase mong, um, yung mga klase mong ginawa mong katuwaan, ikaw ay high school or ikaw ay elementary, alalang-alala mo yan. Another is long-term memory, your personal data, di ba? Kahit nasa malayo ka, kapag naulinigan mo, tinatawag yung pangalan mo, di ba? Mapapalingon ka or kapag katunog. Kasi stored na siya sa long-term memory. Kahit ilang ulit siyang tanong-tanongin sa'yo, kahit ilang taon na ang nakalipas, you will not forget. Okay? Nandoon siya. Stored siya. So long-term memory represents our permanent storehouse of information and it's capable of retaining an unlimited amount and variety of information. Yan. So you can actually memorize the table of, kunwari sa multiplication, table of 9. Memorize mo yan. So long-term memory, pumasok siya. Okay. Pero ito yung exception. Okay? Hindi lahat ay nasa-store sa ating long-term memory kasi merong concept ng forgetting. Okay? We tend to forget because there are factors that are included. So we have the decay and interference. Pag sinabi natin decay, ito yung dahil hindi naman siya ganun kalaging na nire-require na alalahanin. Somehow, parang nakakalimutan. Okay? Parang nabubulok. Just like the decay idea is. So, interference naman is dahil may bago ng concept na na-introduce sa'yo, nakalimutan mo na yung dati. But you know that it is there. Alam ko yan eh. Ganun. Pero kasi mas naaalala ko na yung concept na ganito. Kaya ito na yung mas naaalala. Ganong idea. So, decay and interference. Methods of increasing retrieval information. Ano daw ba yung mga pwede nating gawin para madali nating maalala yung mga information na na-store na natin. Okay? So first is rehearsal. Pag sinabi nating rehearsal, of course, when we say rehearsal, it's all about practicing. Ulit ng ulit. Okay? Repeating information that is verbatimly or mentally loud. Kaya meron tayong mga kaklase pag minsan, kapag nagre-recall o kaya nagre-review and you want it to be stored in your memory bank, diba, paulit-ulit na sinasabi yung word. O kaya pag minsan naiirita sa'yo yung isang kaklase, isang ingay-ingay mo, diba? That's one actually strategy to increase your retrieval of information. So you repeat it, and you say it. Pwede ding mental, paulit-ulit na nire-recall sa ulit. Meaningful learning. So this is making connections between new and prior knowledge. So hindi lahat sabi natin nag-a-attend tayo, ano? So we just give attention doon sa mga bagay na sa tingin natin may connection naman sa buhay mo o yung sa tingin mo kapaki-pakinabang sa course mo. So what you do is you make connection between your prior knowledge to your new knowledge. For example, tinuro sa inyo dati yung sa senses. Okay? So, ang ginamit ni teacher ng elementary is sense of seeing. Yan. So, nung high school naman kayo, pinataas. It's no longer sense of seeing. It's now sense of sight. Okay? Pagdating mo ng college, hindi na siya sense of sight. Vision yung ginamit ng teacher. But it all talks about the way we see. Yun lang naman yun, to simplify. So, just make connection. Ito pala yung mga bagay na iisa lang naman yung idea. So, that's meaningful learning. Another, organization. Making connections to various pieces of knowledge. So, you organize. Now, you organize. So, for example, from general to specific knowledge, di ba, dati you talk about animals. Okay? So, ang alam mo lang na animals dati is the dog, yung mga pinipet mo. But as you go along with life, naintindihan mo na parang, there are different types pa pala ng animals. So, meron tayong ibang mga ah, na, na, na nalaman or natutunan. Okay, so isasama mo na dyan na part pa pala ng animal kingdom, yung mga isda, yung mga lumilipad na mga animals. But you organize them. Another is elaboration. Pag sinabi nating elaboration, palalawakin, di ba? So you add and connect to prior knowledge. Okay? Palalawakin mo lang yung information. Just like kanina dun sa idea ng seeing, vision, sight, lumawak lang. You just added information, but it talks about the same thing lang naman. Another is visual imagery from the word image. Okay? Dun sa nakita mo, visual. So imagery, it's about picture. Okay? So forming a picture of the information. It's just like schema. So, visual imagery. Pag sinabing fast food, di ba, meron ka ng image. May visual image ka na pag sinabing fast food. Pwedeng ang na-imagine mo is Jollibee, pwedeng ang na-imagine mo is McDonald's, pwede rin KFC, depende doon sa iyong idea ng fast food. Okay? Another is generation. So, to generate. Okay? To generate is to produce. Okay? Things we produce are easier than those we hear. Okay? That's why application is very important. Kasi kapag meron kang participation dun sa pinag-aaralan and mas maganda ka kapag meron pang application o merong product na hihingin. So for example, meron kayong gagawing activity or meron kayong gagawing research or gagawing output doon sa isang itinuring konsepto, mas maaalala mo and you can now generate new information. Okay. Another is context. Contexto. Okay? Remembering the situation. So what you have learned based on the experience. Nun. Context. Personalization. So personal. Okay? Making it relevant for you. So all the information that we can recall and that we are storing is depende sa'yo kung ito ay sa tingin mo makakatulong sa'yo. So all the things that you give attention to are the information that you think and consider as relevant, as significant, as are important. Okay? Another ways of increasing retrieval is, of course, naulit, rehearsal, meaningful learning, organization, elaboration, visual imagery, and context as well as personalization. Next tayo, serial position effects. So serial position effect daw, mas naaalala natin yung mga una and yung nandun sa dulo. So recent and primacy, recency and primacy. Kaya papansinin niyo kapag nag um, nagre-review ka and you are actually trying to memorize information, ang mas naaalala mo is yung una at yung dulo. Nakakalimutan si middle part. So since there are researches about the serial position effect, maganda daw na unahin mong i-chunk yung nasa gitna, the middle portion of the material that you are reviewing. For example, unahin mong i-memorize yung nasa gitnang part and then una and then dulo. Ano, para may recall na mas mabilis. Another is part learning. So it's the chunking or breaking up the list. So different parts of your material. For example, ang gagawin mo is i-break mo into pieces. So for example, per chapter, yung pagre-review mo. Unahin mo muna yung diniscuss ng una, and then pangalawa, pangatlo, para nasusundan-sundan. But you do not do the mass practice. Okay? That's why you do distributed practice. So distributed practice naman is just like the part learning, may time na pinakonsider dito. Sa distributed practice, you know that the final examination will be on May 10 to 12. So, ang ginawa mo, 2 months before, nire-review mo na yung material. Hindi mo hihintayin na mag-May 9 o mag-May 10, 11, and 12 at doon ka lang magbabasa. Sa distributed practice, nagkakaroon ka na ng time management para basahin at magbigay time para mas store ng mas maganda ang material at yung mga information na kailangan mo basahin at i-memorize. Okay? Another is yung mnemonic aids. Okay? So mnemonics, it's the strategy that we use acronym, peg word, or sentence construction. So for example, pag memorize ka ng napakaraming konsepto, or you have to memorize and identify things, ang ginagawa mo, kunwari enumeration, ang daming concept, ang gagawin mo, maglalagay ka ng acronym. Sometimes, ang acronyms na ginagawa ng iba is sa mga nakakatawa o sabi ng iba, mas maganda daw maalala kapag medyo bastos yung acronym na gagawin mo. So that's another strategy sa mnemonic aids. Alright. So, that's it for your information processing theory. Yan, i-remind ko lang again kayo for your group activity. Okay, this is the group activity that you are required to submit on or before our finals. Thank you. So for your questions, you may actually use our GC page if you need any clarifications or if I need to again discuss the concepts that was discussed earlier. Thank you very much and God bless.